Welcome back to the Mackinac Policy Conference. Let's turn now to two journalists who know this conference well. Rick Pluta, Senior Capitol Correspondent for the Michigan Public Radio Network, and Chad Livengood, Politics Editor at the Detroit News. Hello, gentlemen.
Hello.
I'm not going to ask you both to count how many conferences this is for you. It would be too much. We'd be here all day counting.
I already got asked to count because Katie Kildee, our photographer, this is her first conference.
Okay.
And I counted 10.
Okay. Okay.
So
yeah,
I missed a few, various life things, and we missed one in 2020.
Sure, right. There was the COVID years. Chad, let's start right out of the gate with just the stunning news last week that former Detroit Mayor Mike Duggan dropping out of the race for governor. What does this mean for this conference?
Well, it definitely kind of turns the coronation of Mike Duggan on its head. That was what was sort of planned by the Detroit Regional Chamber. This is their turf. And he was their candidate, and they were planning to roll out the red carpet for him. A largely pro-Duggan crowd to begin with, so it wasn't like there was a lot of persuasion going to be going on. But all that script had to essentially get set afire last week, and so how this plays out to sort of the politics on the island. Now it's sort of a show of who's going to be jockeying for a position in the governor's race. Yeah,
we are now going to have sort of a 1-to-1 race, at least after the primary. But Rick, I want to go back to the decision from Mike Duggan. He announced in a stunning way, not that he was running for governor, it was sort of an open secret that he was going to run, but that he was going to run as an independent. And just as shocking that he dropped out, and early.
So early and his explanation, his rationale was that, his rationale was basically what made the case for a Governor Duggan, which is someone who accepts reality and acts decisively in the face of that, which is what he appeared to do. And what really stunned and flummoxed a lot of the people who are here is that he did it before this particular conference, which was filled with the same group of people who really, really wanted him to run.
As Chad was saying, right?
Yeah, and what he said last week was, I can't keep telling my supporters to keep sending the checks if I know that I can't get the real big money. This has been the challenge from the start. There's a Republican Governors Association, they'll be in for $100 million. A Democratic Governors Association, another $100 million. There's no such thing as the Independent Governors Association. IGA is only a brand in a supermarket, essentially. But so Mike Duggan was going to have to go find a magical group of billionaires around the country that would want to throw in on this kind of campaign. And he's been traveling both coasts trying to find the money, and he just simply wasn't. And then the variables have changed the political dynamics for the fall election in favor of Democrats. Right. Mike Duggan could not have predicted in December of 2024 that Donald Trump would just start a war with Iran, and that we would have a huge standoff over the shipment of oil in the Strait of Hormuz and have $5 gas for the foreseeable future. And so all these variables just kind of changed on Mike Duggan in ways that he could not control. And this is a politician who has largely controlled his own destiny.
Exactly.
And just simply was, couldn't figure out a way to manage or maneuver this one.
Yeah, it was almost like, that Mike Duggan was a political science lab rat experience, and then the variables just went all a kilter.
So let's get back to the conference, Chad. The Mackinac Policy Conference always takes on a different life in an even year election, right? So we're talking about this election, but it's not just a gubernatorial race. This really is a year unlike any others, when you've also got Attorney General, Secretary of State, this open U.S. Senate race, the entire State House, the entire State Senate. What are you watching for at this conference vis-a-vis election 2026?
I think there's set aside candidates. I think there's some big overarching issues that are festering among voters, and you see this in the polling the Detroit Chamber commissioned, that 55% of Michigan voters do not want to live within 25 miles of a data center. That gives a whole different new definition to not in my backyard. Not even in my neighboring county do I want a data center, essentially, is what they're saying. And so you're seeing in the programming up here that they're going to be talking. I mean, there's a lot of processing of data centers on the agenda between the Recultas, father and son, the chamber itself. Former Governor Jennifer Granholm coming back to her first Mackinac conference since her last year as governor to essentially push data centers. Now she's a consultant in the clean energy space, and so this issue is sort of like front and center for a lot of business leaders, but it's also front and center for a lot of voters, and voters are going to be deciding a lot of thorny issues. I mean, the other one that's percolating right now, tomorrow, this mop-up group, Michiganders Against Money in Politics, is going to try to they claim they're going to turn in more than enough signatures to get a ban on DTE consumers, Blue Cross, and state contractors from giving money in politics. I mean, this would be a sea change if such a thing were to be enacted in our state law, and it's essentially a declaration of war on the big utilities and Blue Cross, which I'm kind of calling the non-automotive big three.
Rick, what are you watching for?
You know, I mean, it's maybe it's a little wonky, and I've already started asking around about it. But we are going to see, speaking of sea changes, a new governor, new Secretary of State, a new Attorney General, all the offices that you just listed, and people don't win elections on the status quo. You win elections running against the status quo. Big change. And how can we what will happen bringing in this new crop of decision makers when it comes to creating durable policies that businesses can live with? Because businesses want low cost, they want a good workforce, they want value, and they want predictability. And all of this is not necessarily a recipe for that. And that is something that the leadership at this conference are talking about. How can you get the leadership that you want, but also encourage an environment where you are creating solutions that are going to outlast the people who are elected in the upcoming campaign cycle?
I mean, Chad, it's part of being a swing state, right? We're a purple state. And so what we do is we don't just swing back and forth between parties. We swing back and forth between policy.
Yeah. I mean, just a couple years ago, everyone here was just trying to get a battery plant built. We've got a couple battery plants built, but none of them are really producing batteries. That's partly because of the change in the national policy on electric vehicles, but it's a very, very good example of how our policies change. Now we're on to data centers and trying to essentially, catch the AI train before it leaves the station. And so that is reflected in this conference and what is on the agenda and what's also being discussed on the porch.
Yeah. Rick, Chad was talking about new polling numbers released. Some of the polling numbers had to do with Governor Gretchen Whitmer and her job approval rating. 52% of voters approve of the job she's doing. It's pretty unusual, Rick, for a second-term governor to be above water like that.
Exactly. It's like, except for Gretchen Whitmer, on your way out the door and things are looking great. Who wouldn't want to have poll numbers like that at this point in administration? But the question is, on her way out the door, is there a way for her to leverage those relatively popular numbers into some sort of, lame duck policy making?
Is that worth it?
Yeah.
Chad Livengood, politically. Policy-wise, it's worth it.
It depends on what Gretchen Whitmer wants to get out of it.
Yeah.
If Gretchen Whitmer wants to continue to sort of play safe and, maybe hedge her bets for her possible national ambitions, then you're not going to see Gretchen Whitmer take a lot of chances in the next 6 months. But depending on how the outcome of the election will dictate what kind of things might happen in lame duck.
But she's a lame duck already.
Yes. Yeah. I'm talking about the session itself, right. But yes, she is certainly a lame duck. And so, what does she want to be her last hurrah is kind of still up in the air.
Yeah.
But some of this economic policy is the big elephant in the room, and so we'll see if they want to advance that. And I think just getting the budget passed is going to be more of a challenge.
Well, she said that's
especially
her.
when Republicans are out trying to cut property taxes.
Yeah.
I mean, let's not forget. I mean, the House of Representatives last week passed like a $5 billion tax cut for property taxes in the state with no replacement revenue. I mean, Matt Hall, the Speaker of the House, continues to sort of play hide and go seek with the replacement revenue because he says there's going to be a service tax on sales tax on services, but he's called it luxury, but not really defined how he's going to come up with $4 or $5 billion taxing corporate jet rides and green fees at country clubs.
Are there that many corporate jet rides in order to
to make
be
up
able
$5 billion?
Seems like
suddenly?
it's going to be hard. So
Yeah.
yes, I mean, yeah. But once he starts, what we've seen in the past with sales tax on service, once you start essentially opening up Pandora's box of okay, we're going to be taxing car washes and baby shoe bronzing, then it becomes kind of a free for all. And the only people that will benefit probably from that kind of debate will be the lobbyists.
Yeah, okay.
Because they'll get to sign up every baby shoe bronzer around.
We're back to
town.
baby shoe bronzing again. It takes us way back. You brought up the budget in the couple minutes that we have left, Chad. Where do things stand right now? We've got a House budget passed, a Senate budget passed. Are negotiations actually happening?
We haven't seen a lot of evidence of negotiations going on, so that's why it's kind of questionable if we're going to make this phantom June 30th deadline.
Yeah.
But it probably won't happen. I mean, if we're going to sit here and guess, because this is politics, and they're going to try to hold out, and House Republicans really think they got a hot issue with property taxes in the affordability debate right now, and that everyone is trying to vie for some way to go back and tell voters we're trying to lower your costs, and so the property tax is a real easy one, even if they don't really have a real way to actually replace the revenue and not defund their schools and cities.
Yeah, there is one particular hard deadline, though, and that is Election Day. And so what is the political price going to be for which course you take? Will voters take it out on you if their local governments are saying, we need our budgets now? If your school boards are saying, we need our budgets now, and it's not done.
Yeah, exactly. That is Rick Pluta, Chad Livengood. Always good to have you at the big desk. Thank you so much.